Hi, welcome to Spoiler Lab. A magician finds herself in mortal danger, trapped in a water tank with hungry piranhas. Today we will recap the 2013 movie Now You See Me.
The closer you look,
the less you see.
The movie introduces us to four main characters whose main talent is deceiving people. Daniel Atlas is a master of card tricks, with which he amazes enthusiastic spectators on the streets of New York. Merritt Osborne specializes in telepathy and reads people's secrets with ease. Jack Wilder is a deft pickpocket and can open any door. The enchanting Henley Reeves performs elaborate stunts. During her show, the shackled girl climbs into an aquarium, and she has only 1 minute to get out, or else a barrel of huge piranhas will tumble into the aquarium. Henley masterfully gets rid of the handcuffs and proceeds to unshackle her feet. But suddenly the chain gets stuck in the bars of the aquarium, and the girl can't get out. Trapped, the magician with a frightened look starts banging on the glass for the assistants to free her. The staff tries to smash the sturdy aquarium with a sledgehammer, but nothing works. Suddenly, Henley manages to pull the chain and floats to the surface. But as soon as she takes a breath, the piranhas spill out into the tank. The water turns a frighteningly scarlet color and frightened cries ripple through the room. When the assistants finally manage to shatter the glass, the illusionist reappears among the audience as if nothing had happened. The crowd enthusiastically applauds the brilliantly performed trick. After the tricks are performed, someone tosses each of the illusionists a tarot card with an address. The protagonists respond to the peculiar invitation and gather together in front of a closed apartment. They get acquainted and easily pick the lock. Inside, strange puzzles await them. The professional magicians easily solve the riddles of the apartment and discover a hologram with blueprints of an incredible con. A year later, taking the aliases the Four Horsemen, the team performs their own show in Las Vegas under the patronage of millionaire Arthur Tressler. On stage, Daniel promises the audience that they will rob a bank during the show. The illusionists ask the audience to randomly pull 3 balls out of a jar. After putting them together, the team names a spot in the audience and invites an audience member to come on stage. He turns out to be a client of a certain French bank, and the magicians promise to transport him directly to the cash vault. The excited man happily agrees, and the magicians place a futuristic helmet on his head to serve as a teleport to the other continent. But first, he is asked to pull out a playing card and sign it. In the course of the trick, the Frenchman enters a special portal and disappears a moment later, while the audience sees on the screen that he has found himself in a vault with money. Unbelieving his eyes, the man touches the bills and confirms that they are real. Daniel asks the man to put his signed card between the bills. Upon being alerted, the French bank's security service rushes to inspect the vault, but at that moment ventilation is turned on in the venue and 3.2 million euros fly out onto the audience in Las Vegas. The audience erupts in excitement, greedily catching the falling bills from the air. In the meantime, the bank's security finds a card with the French customer's signature and an invitation to the next Horseman show in New Orleans in place of the money. The daring €3 million robbery causes quite a sensation among the public and brings a headache to FBI agent Dylan Rhodes, who has been assigned to investigate the case. The man is rather skeptical about the magicians and considers them common criminals who should be punished by the law. He partners with an inexperienced Interpol agent, Alma Dre, who, on the contrary, wants to learn more about the illusionists in order to unravel their secrets. Meanwhile, the horsemen are detained for interrogation. Agent Rhodes tries to get a confession from the prisoners, but the illusionists only mock him. For instance, Merritt reads from the man's body language that he had a difficult time surviving his father's departure as a child and is stressed by the presence of his overseas partner. But what pisses Rhodes off the most is the cocky Daniel Atlas, who, in the middle of the interrogation, stealthily unlocks his handcuffs and shackles the agent in them.
I'm gonna nail you.
The guy hides the key to the cuffs in the soda can, pulling another stunt right under the FBI's nose. The French bank customer also proves to be useless to the investigation, as he is under the influence of hypnosis and begins to mimic playing the violin every time he hears the word bullshit. In the end, the FBI fails to prove the involvement of the illusionists in the robbery and they are forced to let them go. Agent Dre suggests that his partner interrogate the famous presenter Thaddeus Bradley. He used to be a magician himself, but now runs a program in which he exposes illusionists. His program has broken the careers of many magicians, including the once great illusionist Lionel Shrike. During the meeting, Thaddeus sneeringly tells the agents that Shrike has turned out to be a mediocre magician. Unable to endure failure, he decided to perform a risky stunt with a safe and disappeared at the bottom of a river. Bradley has the same opinion of the horseman, whose magic trick in Las Vegas he'd already figured out. In fact, the magicians manipulated the crowd of spectators into believing that they had chosen their own seat in the audience. But the French bank customer was originally the magician's target, and they worked him over long before the show, compelling him to come to Las Vegas. Thaddeus shows the agents an exact replica of the money vault that the horseman had built just under the stage, which is where the Frenchman had actually moved to. Moreover, the magicians did not rob the French bank, but stole freshly printed money from the armored car by sneaking in beforehand. Then they replaced the money with counterfeit bills made of self-flammable paper, which the employees took to the vault. During the illusion, they set fire to the bills, and underneath they found the card with the signature of the Frenchman, which they had forged beforehand and put into the counterfeit money. Having discovered the secret of the trick, Bradley refuses to help the agents any further. He intends to continue following the illusionists in order to film an exposé on the horseman for his program. Dre and Rhodes travel to New Orleans, where the second stage of the illusionist performance will take place. The experienced FBI agent suspects that there is a fifth horseman who is handing out instructions to the illusionists. After all, a year ago, they were unknown to anyone and worked for nothing, pulling street tricks. Meanwhile, the four main characters are traveling in Arthur Tressler's private plane. Merritt is flirting with Henley, which displeases Daniel, who has a crush on her. He decides to try his hand at telepathy too and asks the millionaire to take part in a trick. At first, Daniel tries to guess the name of his first pet, but makes a mistake. Refusing to admit defeat, the guy tries to guess his uncle's last name, but that attempt also fails and he gives up. With a laugh, the businessman reveals their real names.
Snuffles and Cushman Armitage, that was your childhood.
Arriving in New Orleans, Agent Dre doesn't give up on trying to understand the illusionist's mindset and studies the history of the magician Lionel Shrike, which annoys her partner. Rhodes prefers to conduct a standard investigation, tracking the horseman's movements with the help of a wiretap, which they secretly installed in the prison. But the girl is confident that the surveillance won't help them catch the skilled magicians. Before the show starts, Tressler tries to bribe and threaten Thaddeus into giving up on exposing the horseman, but to no avail. He and the agents come to the show to keep a close eye on the magician's every move. The show begins and the illusionists ask several spectators to name the balance in their bank accounts. They all turn out to have a small amount on their cards, which they embarrassingly confess. But Daniel promises that by the end of the show, their financial situation will change. The magicians invite their benefactor Tressler onto the stage and show a huge check with an equally large sum on it, which belongs to the millionaire. The horsemen ask the spectators to take the checks out from under their seats and illuminate them with their flashlights. Suddenly, tens of thousands of dollars begin to add to their small balances. The magicians illuminate Tressler's check, revealing that at the same time large sums begin to disappear from his account. The illusionists inform the shocked audience that the money Tressler's insurance company refused to pay out as compensation for the damage caused by Hurricane Katrina is being returned to them. The millionaire is at a loss for words when the horsemen pull the con right under his nose. On the plane, they tricked him into finding out the code words for his bank account, which turned out to be the pet's nickname and his uncle's last name. Having unobtrusively chained the millionaire, the magicians are about to leave the stage. Rhodes rushes after them, but he is stopped by the hypnotized spectators, who imagine themselves to be foosball players. Eventually the agent manages to get away from them and continues to chase the illusionists through the cramped streets of New Orleans crowded with drunk people. Agent Dre is the first to get on the trail of Daniel Atlas and points a gun at him, but lets him escape at the last minute. It soon becomes apparent that the tracking beacon has been planted on Rhodes during the show, and all along he and the other FBI agents have been chasing themselves. Later on, everyone in the news talks about how cleverly the horsemen outsmarted the FBI. Enraged, Dylan gets drunk at the bar and accuses his partner of aiding the illusionists. He suspects that she may be the fifth horseman. Tired of the accusations, the girl twists his arm and leaves him alone. Meanwhile, Tressler, enraged by the loss of his fortune, meets with Thaddeus. The man tells the millionaire that he was only part of a worldwide stunt that had been planned for years. Tressler again offers Bradley a money deal, but this time he must expose the horsemen and ruin their lives. In the morning, Rhodes calms down and apologizes to his partner. She shows him the information she was able to learn about the illusionist world. It turns out that there is a secret society of magicians called the Eye. In order to join them, magicians must fulfill a series of tasks aimed at helping ordinary people.
Candidates for initiations must follow a series of commands with blind obedience.
Suddenly Rhodes notices that his phone is starting to malfunction. He gives it to his colleagues to check and discovers that there is a hidden chip inside, tracking all of the agent's calls and messages. Daniel Atlas tampered with the phones during the interrogation, allowing the magicians to always be one step ahead of the FBI. Rhodes tells them to put the chip back so they won't suspect anything. And with the help of tracking his real phone, he's going to find the horseman's hideout. At their headquarters in New York, the horseman team is hurriedly packing up, clearly nervous. They fear they've gone too far in order to be members of the Eye, and they don't want to spend the rest of their lives in prison. Daniel is the only one who doesn't have any doubts about their actions and is willing to go all the way. He, along with Henley and Merritt, leave the hideout, while Jack stays behind to destroy the remaining evidence in the fireplace. Rhodes and his partner burst into the apartment and they attack the magician. Thanks to his dexterity, Jack traps one of the agents by the sink, and proceeds to fight Dylan. In the end, the guy throws embers from the fireplace in the agent's face and leaves the house using the garbage chute. He steals their car, and agents Rhodes and Dre go after them. Along the way, Jack fails to control the car. His car flips in midair and falls over. Rhodes runs up to the scene of the accident and tries to free the man from his seat belt, but to no avail. The agent manages to get a document out of the magician's hands before the car explodes. With this document, the FBI agents learn about the illusionist's latest target, a safe containing $500 million in unpaid taxes from one firm that another FBI division has been watching. With the help of Rhodes' stolen phone, the magicians manage to gain access to the FBI command center. After failing to catch the criminals, the Bureau takes the horseman's case away from the agent. The frustrated Dylan is contacted by Bradley, who gives him a clue that his foreign counterpart has been leading the investigation the wrong way all along. Now Rhodes can no longer trust anyone and rudely tells Alma to stay away from him. Suddenly, the FBI agents receive a report that the safe being guarded is missing. Arriving on the scene, they find out that their boss has been worked on by the horseman and compelled him to order the safe to be moved to another location. Nevertheless, the FBI agents manage to intercept the van with the stolen money. Rhodes and his partner climb inside it to lead them straight to the robbers. Meanwhile, the remaining illusionists record a video message inviting fans to their last show at the 5 Points Art Center. The van stops and the agents are informed that a woman is approaching. Rhodes decides it's Agent Dre, but when the doors open, he finds Bradley's assistant and the presenter himself in front of him. Dylan decides that he's finally caught the fifth horseman, but Thaddeus says that he, too, was on the trail of the illusionists to film an expose show. He sneeringly states that the horsemen have once again fooled the FBI agents.
Now, if you want to look like even bigger idiots, why not open it?
It turns out that the safe is full of inflatable balloons instead of money. Meanwhile, audience gathers outside the 5 Points Art Center in anticipation of the illusionists' latest show. The trio of magicians greet their fans with a projection on the wall of the building. They argue that magic for the sake of lying and stealing is a crime. And they ask the audience to help them correct some of their deeds. The FBI sees the magicians on the roof. But Dre runs up to Rhodes and assures him that this is another illusion and the three need to look elsewhere. They run into the hangar where the magicians were recording the greeting, but they are no longer there. Meanwhile, the FBI agents find mannequins on the roof. And the real magicians climb up to another roof, starting the show. They thank the audience, say goodbye to the spectators and run to the edge of the roof. Rhodes, arriving on the scene, manages to target the horseman, but Alma prevents him from firing the shot. The illusionists jump off the roof of the building and are transformed into thousands of bills. Observing the scene, Rhodes and Dre realize that their work together is finished, and they kiss. The delighted onlookers snatch the money from the air, but it turns out to be fake, their portraits of the horsemen. Meanwhile, Thaddeus Bradley returns to his car, which turns out to be packed with the stolen millions. The FBI grabs him and arrests him as an accomplice to the robbery. While in jail, Rhodes comes to him and asks the wardens to leave them alone in his cell. Thaddeus tries to justify himself and tells the agent that he was set up. To prove his case, he exposes the safe theft stunt. In fact, the horsemen have pulled a classic rabbit trick. After gaining access to the vault with the money, they placed a giant piece of glass inside. When the agents broke in, they thought the millions were gone, but in fact they were still hidden behind the glass. The FBI then pulled the guards from the bank and went in pursuit of the illusionists, leaving someone who had no problem sneaking inside the vault. That person was Jack Wilder, who played out his end and fooled the investigators once again. During the chase, the magicians discreetly switched out a classic police car. In reality, inside the crashed car was a corpse from the morgue, whose body Jack had stolen beforehand. Even the document found in the car was a setup that led the FBI down a false trail. In the end, Jack cracked the safe containing the money and placed it in Thaddeus Bradley's car to frame him for some unknown reason. Rhodes is aware of this reason. For years Bradley had dreamed of gaining a membership in the iMagic community. But the man wasn't a gifted enough magician, so he didn't get an invitation. Enraged, Thaddeus decided to take revenge on the truly talented illusionists by destroying their careers. By his actions, he angered the Eye and they took their revenge on him. However, Bradley's ego is too big and he doesn't believe in the existence of a secret society. The only thing he wonders is how the horsemen have been able to deceive the FBI for so long. Suddenly it dawns on him that there must have been a man who deliberately led the agents away from the illusionists and was willing to risk everything until the main stunt was performed.
Almost as if they were on the
inside.
Bradley turns around in bewilderment and sees Rhodes standing behind the bars of the cell. It turns out that all this time he was the fifth horseman, who secretly hired talented magicians and handed out instructions to them. All this time he was 2 steps ahead of Thaddeus and making sure the other agents didn't catch the illusionists. This discovery shocks the presenter, who, for the first time in his life, has been unable to unravel a trick in which he himself has become the main subject. He tries to find out why Rhodes would do this, but he leaves Bradley to rot in his prison cell. Meanwhile, the horsemen gather at an abandoned amusement park, where they reunite with Jack Wilder. They discover a monument tree to the legendary magician Lionel Shrike, which contains a playing card. Putting together their tarot cards with the image of the eye, they set them up against the tree and activate a merry-go-round nearby. As they approach the ride, the magicians are hugely surprised to find Dylan Rhodes in front of them, who has been by their side the whole time. Finally he utters the long-awaited words.
Welcome to the eye.
Some time later, Rhodes meets Agent Dre in Paris while reading a newspaper. The girl guesses that he is Lionel Shrike's son. The man tells her that all his life he has been planning revenge for what happened to his father. His choice of targets was also no coincidence. Thaddeus Bradley ruined the career of the brilliant illusionist by forcing him to perform a risky illusion. The French bank and Tressler refused to pay the man's insurance policy. Finally, the company from which the horseman had stolen millions had, in the past, created knowingly the unreliable safe from which Shrike could not escape. Rhodes decided to tell his partner everything because she was the only one trying to understand the illusionists. He's willing to trust her with the secret of his tricks, and in gratitude Agent Dre decides to keep it a secret forever. Were you also able to be fooled by the fifth horseman, or did you quickly guess that it was Agent Rhodes? Tell us about it in the comments and like this video.